Welcome to the Two Togs Talk podcast, where two photographers with hundreds of weddings worth of experience give you meaningful insights into what works and what doesn't, reveal juicy wedding nightmares from actual weddings, and what you can do to make your wedding day more magical. He's Garrett, the old pro, who still cries at daddy-daughter dances and who definitely steals an extra cupcake on his way out.
She's Gianna, the young gun, who's always got the extra safety pin or granola bar handy and who is currently planning her own wedding. Together, we can help make your biggest day more memorable, more relaxed, and more personal to you and your vision. Awesome. Hey, welcome to the Two Togs Talk podcast, episode numero uno. We are just out the gate, so please be careful with her. Please be lenient with us as we screw all this stuff up for the first time. I am Garrett.
And I'm Gianna.
We are a couple of photographers based in Helena, Montana, and we have some ideas on things related to weddings and other things. We thought this would be a great option and a great way to get some of those thoughts out on the airwaves. So the idea with this podcast is to hopefully answer a couple of questions along the way. Everything that we talk about, we are going to try and put through the same lens of what would you do again, what would you do again, and what would you do differently? We're going to attack those two questions on as many fronts as we can think of. Today's episode, we are going to talk about the wedding day schedule and what it is, what it isn't, and what it can do for you throughout the process. Because as wedding photographers, we see and deal with this on a weekly basis. I guess a little background before we get going here. We run a business in Helena called Floating Leaf Studios. We have shot upwards of 250 weddings over the last, decade plus, 13 years plus. So
you're aging yourself.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, if the gray hair on my beard wasn't doing that already, here I am doing this. But anyway, the goal here is to get some of our thoughts and some of our ideas out so that people can use them to help make their wedding day better. Like I said, we've done hundreds of these, so we know what works. We've seen some things that work. We've seen some things that don't. So we want to talk all about that.
And we'll be sharing all of the dirty secrets and horrible stories that happened along the way.
Yeah, we gotta get some stories out because there are some good ones.
No names.
For sure. Yeah. Sorry. If you're a former client listening to this, we love you. Thank you for
Please don't hate us.
Thank you for the content. Okay, so again, today we are going to talk about the wedding day schedule. So a couple of stories, I guess, to start out this thing. This is how we're going to roll with this podcast as we go. We have been to several weddings that have done things well, and we've seen a lot of weddings that have done things a little backwards, right? I was at a wedding one time where the bride was 2 hours late because her hair and makeup, she couldn't get her hair and makeup done right? That is a constant problem. I've been in a wedding where the groom was several hours late because he was trying to finish the cake topper for his wedding cake on his 3D printer and couldn't get the code to work out correctly and kept breaking the plastic that he was using. So that threw a tizzy into the project. One client of ours got stuck in a parade. She parked her car at the hair and makeup salon downtown. And in the meantime, while she was in getting her hair and makeup done, a parade started and they had cut off her route, and the parade was literally marching right past her car as she was parked outside of this thing and called us in a frantic, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I can't move. I'm stuck in this parade. I'll be there as soon as I can." Right. So what do these stories mean? These stories are giving you examples of things that happen on a wedding day. We call it wedding day weirdness, right? The things that pop up that nobody expects to pop up. That can alter the way that your day is laid out and alter the things that come about on your wedding day, right? Your wedding day schedule goes a long way to either adding or reducing the stress in your wedding day. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a regimented, military style, this thing to this thing to this thing to this thing. We have been at weddings where...
I was going to say, I have a story for this one.
There you go, yeah.
Where mom has a binder that she carries around with her nonstop the full wedding day and is constantly saying, "Oh, we're 3 minutes behind. Oh, this is going to happen in 5 minutes. Everybody got to get ready." And then the bride gets all stressed out and it not ruins, but definitely dampers the day.
having somebody in charge of the schedule is an important piece of the puzzle, but riding herd so tightly that anybody gets stressed out because we're 5 minutes late, like that's a different side of this thing, right? So, uh, okay, so let's talk about the wedding day schedule and kind of what it is and what it isn't, right? In my opinion, the wedding day schedule is more of a general idea of the things that are going to happen this day. It's not written in stone. We never write anything in stone. It's not written in pen. It's written in pencil, right? If we need to make adjustments, we can sure do that. Another thing would be that it's designed. I mean, the whole schedule is designed to add direction to the day. It's designed to keep the balls rolling, right? It's not intended to add stress. It's not intended for to make it so that you're constantly looking at your watch or okay, here we up. We got to get to this thing. We got to hurry up and get to this thing. Get to this thing, right? It's designed to keep the action moving forward, but it's not. It's not. Hopefully, it does not add stress to it. Hopefully, you've had conversations about this with either your photographer or your planner. Photographers tend to be the people that end up being the schedule producers, right? Because we're the vendor that's with these people the most, and that we spend the most time of the day with them, so we are kind of the ones that are in charge of all the pieces, right? Or at least lining those out so that we have some ideas going forward. So, why don't you take from talk about kind of what influences the schedule or the pieces of the puzzle that come from that?
So I'd say the biggest influence is the time of year. Obviously, depending on where you're at in Montana, it is 4 p.m. in the winter and is dark outside, and it's 9 p.m. in the summer and it is still light. So obviously that means that you have a lot more time before sunset photos, or you can have a later ceremony. But basically choosing a time of year that works best for you. It doesn't have to be, oh, I want a June wedding date because it's the summer months and it's warm. But that also factors into your schedule versus if you want to do a New Year's Eve wedding and kiss at midnight or something fun like that.
Oh, we've seen those before. Yeah. Hey, we're going to try and time this up to where we kiss right when the ball hits zero there. Didn't work out. They were like 12 minutes early, but whatever.
No one needs to know.
First time officiant. He got excited and talked fast. So, so definitely your time of year. I mean, we're in Montana where the seasons change and the light drastically is different at 4 o'clock in one season versus the other. So that's going to influence kind of how you lay your schedule out and what you can do inside of your schedule as you go through this day.
Obviously, summer months, you have a lot more time where you can add in between. You can have an hour-long dinner or an hour-long toast that won't damper your sunset photos. But if you are getting married in October and your best man wants to share every single story he knows about you, it might bump into your sunset time. So that is something to think about as well.
One of the first questions that we always ask our client, even in the very first interaction with these people, is: have you decided? Are you guys going to see each other before the ceremony or not? That's a huge part of the schedule puzzle. As far as it doesn't matter to us whether you want to wait to see them walking down the aisle for the first time, or if you want to do a first look where you see the person before the ceremony. Obviously, it changes the scheduling aspect of the whole day. By doing a first look, by getting a lot of those photos out of the way before the ceremony starts, you then have the ability to be more present with your family. You get more things off the plate. There's less stress and less structure in that chunk of time between ceremony and reception. We've all been to weddings that seem to drag forever in that whole ceremony to reception place. And believe us, as photographers, we feel that heat too. Right. You as a guest are like, gosh, what the hell's taking them so long? And we as photographers,
usually the photographer gets the blame.
Yeah, usually it's our fault, and it probably is our fault, but we're just trying to get all of the pieces of the puzzle put together. By the time you get through family photos and then a little bit of the couples photos, if you haven't seen each other beforehand, and now we have to add all the bridal party images in between there. So that definitely adds time and adds an angle to your schedule and how you put that thing together. Like I said, we don't have a preference on whether you see each other or not. I mean, about 50% of our clients decide to see each other and 50% of our clients decide not to see each other. That's fine. It just comes down to how you then lay the rest of the day out around that. So
some venues also only have specific times allotted for ceremonies. And if that is part of your venue's requirements, a lot of times that's churches. They only do certain ceremony times, and that can factor into your day and planning around that as well. If the ceremony has to be at 2 p.m., then everything needs to be done earlier, or you can kind of flip flop and put things after. But most of the time, I'd say a majority of venues do not have a time restriction for ceremonies.
Yeah, mostly churches. Excuse me. We do a lot of work with the Catholic churches locally, and they tend to have a very more strict or more rigid schedule system because they're usually there. I mean, there's been days where they have multiple weddings in the same day, so they're like, "Hey, your turn. Okay, cool. Now you're not your turn. Get out of here." And so, yeah, if your ceremony starts at 2 o'clock versus whether it starts at 4 o'clock, that's obviously a big difference in terms of what your schedule looks like at the other end of the thing. The number of people that you invite to this thing plays a big role in this as well, right? And whether and not just from a guest's perspective, but how many people are in your bridal party? How many family members are going to be there? Are you going to okay, so if you have an 8-person bridal party, we have to organize that many people through the scheduling of hair and makeup. If you have to get all those people ready, I mean, that having 8 people ready is a lot harder than if you have 2 people that need to get ready for this thing. It's a lot more stress and pressure on the hair and makeup folks and any of that kind of process. But having 8 is going to make it harder than 2. I'm not saying that 8 is wrong, but if you want to do your family photos down to the cousins and second cousins and aunts and uncles level, it's going to take a little bit more time to get through that part, right? So we have to a lot more time for that. If you want to just stick with the immediate family, if it's just your mom, your dad, your grandparents, let's go, right? That makes us a little bit more efficient. The more people means more time, right? So whether that's bridal party photos, family photos, even time interacting with guests. I shot a wedding a bunch of years ago in Butte, Montana, Butte, America, that had over 600 people in attendance, right? It took us more than 45 minutes to walk from one side of the venue to the other because there was just so many people involved in every step you took. It was like, hey, how are you? Oh, hey. And then everybody gets their 10 seconds to say hi and congratulations. But when you're trying to hustle across the venue to get across so that when it's, when the sunset hits at the right time, like, that adds a big piece of the puzzle there. So the more people that you add to the party and to the guest list, it's going to add a complexity of time to that. You got to get 250 people through a food line versus 100 people in a food line or whatever it is. There's no right or wrong answer here, right? You guys make the decisions on what you want to do for all this stuff. Just know that your decisions come with a cost.
With a timestamp.
Yeah. There's
receiving lines too, I feel like are a big slowdown, unintentionally or not. The receiving line, if you don't get out of the way from your ceremony to come back to do family photos, you will get stuck no matter what.
And everybody just thinks that they're just, it's just my turn. Hey, just give me 2 seconds. Hey, I just got to say a quick hi. Right. And then, 15, 20 people later, here we are spending 10, 15 minutes over there and it's going, okay, man, come on. We got to get going through the rest of these pieces so that we can let you be more present down the road. We're not trying to just take over your day. When we're taking you away to family photos or to sunset photos or things like that. But we are trying to just keep the ball rolling and we're trying to get the pieces out of the puzzle that we need to as we go through this. So, okay. So going back to that whole, we're going to try to answer these questions as we go through the podcast every time we do this, right? So something that I would do every time at my wedding when it comes to the scheduling component of it. Number one, we've said this to several brides forever.
Every bride ever.
Every bride ever needs to have time to eat on their wedding day. Please.
Not only because you're going to be hungry, but because you're going to turn into a hangry if you don't.
For sure. We have a couple stories. We have lots of stories, right? And a lot of it comes back to, you've been up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're nervous, your jitters are going, right? And then you got to be at the hair and makeup artist and the mimosas start early and that's great. But make sure you mix in a sandwich. Make sure you mix in a granola bar. Don't be offended at us when the first thing we do is throw a granola bar at you when we walk in the door. Hey, how are you doing? Have you eaten yet today? This is great.
Drink water.
Yep.
Eat food.
Because there's a lot of hours between 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. when your ceremony starts, or even more so when dinner's kicked off at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night, right? There's a lot of time there. So being in your best interest, I've had brides cut their family photos short because they were hungry and they were
Many
over it.
times.
Yeah, they just said, nope, we're done, we're out of here, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, we're missing family members, we're missing combinations of family photos that could be pretty powerful down the road, right? I mean,
Yeah, photos with grandparents, photos with parents even. Like, oh, I see my parents all the time. I don't need that one. Just skip it. Well, you're going to regret that one later.
5 days from me, 5 days from now, me is going to be upset at me for not making that decision. And it really all came down to just making sure you got a sandwich in your system, right? So, so I would always make time to eat for sure. Number two, I would always, always, always make more time than you think is necessary for your hair and makeup. One of the biggest time traps that we see on a wedding day revolves around you just not being ready in time. And a majority of the time, that's just because either your hair and makeup was late, maybe the hair and makeup artist was overwhelmed with the number of people. There's all sorts of ways that goes weird. Maybe something you didn't figure out. I had a gal one time that was trying to figure out how to get the magnetic eyelashes to stick, and it took them 45 minutes to an hour, and they still never got it figured out. Really, they had to go back to the glue style. But it was like, man, that was 45 minutes of our lives in that schedule there that really threw the thing out of whack because we didn't have enough time scheduled for that, right? So putting more time for your hair and makeup artist. I'm not trying to throw shade at hair and makeup artists. We love you guys. You guys make our job a lot easier because people look great in front of the camera. We don't have to do as many editing touch-ups down the road, but making sure that they are prepared, making sure that they are done on time. One of the things we always tell our brides, don't be the last one in the chair, right? If you're having someone do your hair and makeup professionally, don't be the last one on schedule. Don't get all 6 of your bridesmaids done first, and then you expect to be on time. Not going to happen, right? We can always work around an extra bridesmaid or two that needs to get their stuff done while we're doing the other pieces. So make sure you give yourself some more time on that, right?
Family photos, back to that. We've all seen the weddings, again, that last forever and ever because you can't find the one guy. The one cousin's off drinking beer and you can't take any of the photos until he's back. And so making a family photo list down to the individual names over and over again. Yes, it's tedious, but mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin, all the names all the way through, and it makes the photos go 10 times faster.
We started implementing this list several years ago, and it actually stemmed from my own wedding where we didn't get a lot of the photos that we wanted out of the family photos, right? I mean, and it was nobody's fault other than we just, in the moment on your wedding day, there's so many other things going on. Trying to come up with all the combinations in the moment is impossible.
Yeah.
Right. So having those things listed, having those, down to whatever level you want to go, right? If you want to go just immediate family, parents, siblings, grandparents, great. If you want to add in aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins, whatever, cool. Have it all laid out, have it written down. It allows us to go screaming through this list. Boom, this one, boom, this one, boom, this one, boom, this one. And it is so efficient. I've actually gotten screamed at a wedding for being too efficient in this process, right? We were going too quickly through these combinations and they thought we were taking time away from their family. And it's like, no, we're not actually taking time away from your family. We're trying to give you more time with your family. Let us get through this part of the day. And then you can have all the time you want with your family. I'm cool with that. Right. So, having that list is going to save you a ton of time. It's going to make that part of it way more efficient. That's kind of everybody comes to weddings, especially family members come to weddings. They're like, okay, well, I know there's going to be a family photo section of this and it's going to take forever. And if we've got one person shooting and the other person screaming out the list and crossing these things off as you go, my gosh, that makes it way better. I mean, the second part of that conversation is making sure that everybody that's in the photo list is there.
And knows that they're supposed to be there.
Right. So communicate that with the people ahead of time, but having the list is the first 75% of the project.
Yep.
Get that laid out and then just, keep Uncle Bob from trying to chase a beer down from across the venue.
Or bring the beers to the family photo location and people will hang out for longer.
For sure. We used to make that joke all the time. It was like, hey, if we did the family photos right next to the keg, this would be way more efficient. We're like, haha, funny.
It's true.
No, very true.
Very true.
Very true, actually. So, great. Make your list. Make sure that the people that are on the list know that they're on the list and go from there. So, something that I always recommend, and this may be not something that is going to save you time on your wedding day, but it is definitely going to give you some grounding. It's going to give you some perspective on the day. And it's something that everybody forgets to think about. But if you are a bride, schedule some time for you and your groom on your wedding day, right?
Of all the things that happened on that day, you being alone with your groom is less than you think. I feel like most weddings it's like, here, maybe 5 minutes by yourselves. Cool. Okay, have fun, and then leave and then see each other. But the day's about you, so be with just you two for more than 4 seconds.
I always giggle at this idea that it's the whole reason this whole party is coming together is because you two are coming together, right? And yet you two get maybe 30 seconds in passing together, unless you do a first look, right? So one of the ways to do that is to do a first look, right? So that's dedicated time with your groom. Typically when we do those kinds of photos, we shoot that moment and then we back off and we let them have that moment because we know that that's one of the only moments they're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
We've got brides that have physically scheduled in time, said, nope. So that we went and did family photos after the ceremony. We did bridal party photos. We did a couple of the couple photos. I'd say that 5 times fast. And then they said, okay, we'll be back in 10 minutes. And they disappeared. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. What did they do? They came back with a better, the white knuckles were
refreshed.
Gone. The stress was gone. Right. Just the whole idea, the grounding aspect of that. It's incredible. So it's making sure that you spend some time with your significant other, with your groom, with your bride. Take some time to smell the roses, man, because you paid for them.
True.
So
paid a lot of money for them.
You paid a lot of money for them, right?
Handwritten notes too. I mean, we all see the weddings where they go over the same vows at the altar, which is totally fine. But personalizing those, even if like you're not fully wanting to say all of your feelings in front of everyone, you don't have to. You can do it by yourselves later on if you want to do it during that time when it's just you two. That's great. First look's another good time to do that. But just having those like more meaningful vows, I guess you'd call them vows still, or notes with each other is going to add a lot of emotion and a lot of value to your day as well.
Again, not going to be something that's probably going to save you a ton of time, but it's going to make the rest of the time when when there are schedule restrictions and things like that, it's going to be something that is well worth it. The weddings that we see with people with handwritten personalized vows or notes to each other are just so much more meaningful and so much more fun. And the people that are doing that kind of stuff are more fun to be around. Right. So make sure that's
no offense if you're not.
Yeah. Don't offend. We're not here to offend anybody. I guess the last thing that I would do every time when I'm putting together a schedule or when I'm getting ready for my wedding day is make time for what's important to you. We have, there's a lot of wedding traditions that are based in things that don't ever exist anymore. Right. We were joking about this. We're going to do a whole podcast on some of the wedding traditions and what they mean and how we can interpret those now. But if the time for just you two is important, schedule it in, make it part of your day. If it's the people that have traveled long distances to come to your wedding, whether you've got family from all over the place, we've shot weddings with multi international guests, right?
Yeah.
People from all sorts of countries and stuff have come to certain weddings. And if that's important to you, if you want to spend time with them, then make that part of your day. Make that a schedule item on your day of, hey, here's what we're doing. Maybe that's more time around the reception. Maybe you're not going to be disappeared through the cocktail hour. You're going to go spend more time with them. That's fine. Put those list items in your schedule so that we know exactly what they are, defend it, and then off we go, right? There's no rules on this. You guys can make whatever decisions that you want. You can make time for whatever you need to make time for. And that's the beauty of a wedding ceremony, in my opinion. Those are the more fun ones, the ones that have the personality, the ones that have you built into it, that have all these things that you've made decisions on, right? Those are way more fun.
We had a bride a couple weeks ago whose family loves the chicken dance. They came out onto the dance floor at 9 p.m. dressed as chickens. They had like 20 chicken costumes, and they all sang into the chicken dance. And you're not going to see that at every wedding, but it's meaningful to them. It relates to who they are as a couple, and it's awesome. That's exactly what we like to see.
More chickens.
Always
more chickens. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit. Let's go to the things that I would definitely do differently, or the things that I would try to eliminate as we went through this, right? The biggest thing that I always tell people, right, and this starts from the very first conversation that we have about schedule, is don't stress about being a couple minutes late. 10 to 15.
It always happens.
the weddings that are on time scare me more than the ones that are behind. Right?
Yep.
For sure. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What did I forget something? Why is
She's in the dress at 2 and the schedule says 2.
Oh man,
Weird.
What are we doing? What are we gonna? What's happening here? Don't stress about that, right? The 10 to 20 minutes that you're behind, quote unquote, big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can make that up. Nobody knows where, there's not going to be any issues there, right? If you're going to be 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours late, like we gave you in some stories like earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
That starts to throw a wrinkle in the project, and that requires us to make decisions about what's most important and kind of start moving things around, getting rid of this thing to get this other thing back in there, right? So maybe we didn't have time to do your couples photos. Okay, well now we have to spend some time doing that, which cuts into family time or cuts into whatever that
Dinner
is.
time, push back dinner, things get moved around when you're 2 hours late.
Right. So again, we understand things happen. I had a groom one time that never checked his suit bag before he got to his wedding, and he realized that when he got there, they didn't have a white shirt for his suit. So luckily back then we had a store in town that could sell you a white shirt. Now it would be significantly harder because there's nowhere in Helena to buy a white shirt anymore. But the idea was, we were late because it was, we didn't take the time to do, some
Double
checks
checking.
Yeah. Double check stuff. Right.
Always check your suit bag. Maybe pack 2 shirts and 2 pants just in case.
I'm pretty sure when my dad got his suit out of the bag for my wedding, his pants were hemmed to like mid shin. They were like 8 inches too short. I was like, well, he's like, no, it's fine. We'll just cut them out. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then he cut the hem out, and then they were like 4 inches too long. I was like, oh my gosh,
That's great.
crazy. So don't stress about the minutia thing. Keep yourself on track to not be, an hour or so late, but 10, 15, 20 minutes, don't stress.
But also don't have someone yelling at you the time every 5 minutes saying, oh, in 10 minutes, we got to do this. Oh, in 20 minutes, we got to do this. Like, have someone there to help, like, move things along. Like, hey, we're going to need to be doing this soon, but we don't need a minute by minute countdown.
Right. Don't make Aunt with the binder, everybody's least favorite throughout the day because she's just barking and adding stress to the whole project. Right.
Yep.
The other thing that I would say about not doing, the other thing that I would tell you not to do at your wedding is to not do it all yourself.
Yes, please.
This is something that we see a lot, right? And I'm all for people trying to find ways to save money and add personality to this wedding. And a lot of times you as the bride are the one that has all the ideas and has the playbook. And all these ideas and all these pieces that you're trying to put together are in your Pinterest board, or you've seen this and you've marinated with this for a year or more. But in my opinion, the way to go about it is to get your thoughts and your direction laid out, and then give the people the opportunity to help you out. Right. A lot of times, one of the reasons why brides are late on their wedding day is because everybody's coming up to them with a question. Hey, what do I need to do with this? Hey, there's a box over here.
Go?
Yeah. What does this thing need to do? Or how do I put the table centerpieces together? And you're the only one that has the ideas there. Right.
Mm-hmm. Delegate prior to the day of your wedding.
For sure.
Tell them bridesmaid number 1, you're in charge of setting up centerpieces. Bridesmaid number 2, you're in charge of flowers, and give them all of those pieces and details that you have thought about and planned about for a year, and give it to them. Let them help you.
I've been a family member at a wedding where I'm flying in from out of state. I'm coming to a place that is designed. I'm here for the wedding. Give me something to do. Mm-hmm. Don't let me just sit around and pick my nose in the corner, right? Because give me something to do. One of the coolest things I saw a bride do once was she had a book where she had set up the centerpieces the way that she wanted them set up, and she took a bunch of pictures of them and then just handed the book with the pictures over to the person and said, here, go take this and go do that. And they're like, okay, perfect. That's a piece of cake. So then when they had questions, they were really small, they were really quick, but they could do 95% of the project by themselves, right? Mm-hmm. The other part of this, and this is where a lot of the issues come in with this part of the process, is that you as a bride have to be okay with what comes out of the final product there. It might not be perfect. It might not be what you saw on your Pinterest board or what you had in your mind.
But no one is going to know but you.
For sure, right? And as soon as you point it out to somebody, then everybody knows, right?
Mm-hmm. The bride that was setting up an altar and had had friends go and help her out, and they wrapped it all up with the cloth or whatever it's called. And she came out and realized it was wrapped in the wrong direction, clockwise versus counterclockwise. Obviously, anyone that looks at it is not going to have a single idea except for you.
Right. That was a little excessive, but again,
The excessive version of the example.
No,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Right. I mean, and again, you come out, and go, oh gosh, that wasn't quite right.
No one's going to know.
Nobody knows. Right. Nobody's going to judge you because your altar was wrapped counterclockwise instead of instead of clockwise. So, and if they do, they probably shouldn't have been at your wedding anyway. So leave them alone. Getting those details out, getting those balls rolling, and then the day of, just letting them roll, man. And however they come together, it's going to be an awesome day. It's going to come together just as way it should. The idea of somebody there to help your schedule, like a day of coordinator or somebody, and a lot of people use family members for that, and that's fine. Having an aunt with a binder that's kind of keeping all the balls rolling forward is great. Just don't be so wrapped up in the whole, we got to be done at 2:00 and it's 2:05 and what are we doing? Right. Right.
Yep.
So, I don't know. We've done enough of these to understand that there's some flexibility in the schedule. There's some things that need to be addressed, but there's also a lot of ways that you can add meaning and take stress away from your day by just being on top of it. Right. And delegating, I think that's the biggest takeaway. Delegate things, prepare before you get there. And then don't stress the things that happen on the day of, because there's going to be things, right? But we as photographers are the ones that are typically putting this schedule together for our clients. We usually meet with them several months beforehand. Usually it's the hair and makeup artist that's asking, hey, what time do we need to do this? Or what's the, what time do I need to have these guys done? And that's when the schedule part of the conversation starts. I would recommend that you have that conversation earlier in the process. Get yourselves ironed out, get yourselves ready to go. But then again, let it roll as it rolls, and do your best to stay on top of it. But don't stress if for some reason something happens and you need to make some adjustments. Right? If your photographer is comfortable in that role, or if the vendors around you are comfortable in their roles, the on the fly adjustment will happen.
Yep.
It will all work out. It'll all be part of the great story at the end of this thing. So don't stress out about it. Be proactive and have a good time.
Yeah. And also don't do things that you don't want to do. Schedule wise, a lot of the times we see after you've had dinner and it's time to dance and cut cake, and people think that they have to throw the flowers and do the bouquet toss, and that they have to do the garter toss. You don't have to do anything. I'm not doing a flower toss. Nope.
Ooh, spoiler alert. Gianna's engaged. We'll talk about that later. Okay. Thank you for hanging out with us on this first podcast. We will promise to make things better and more fun down the road. We have a template that we are going to share as far as how to build a schedule. Again, every photographer has their own nuances on this. We have an idea of how we put things together, but we would love to share this with you. So if you go to our website, you will find some resources on how to create a schedule, both whether you're going to see each other, what we call a traditional,
whether you're not going to see
not
each other,
going to see each other is going to be
traditional.
the traditional way, right? The way that weddings used to be, or the first look version. And again, those vary just a little bit. We'll give you some cues on that. It basically just has you start at the ceremony and work forwards and backwards. But those resources are available at our website. Give us a follow there. Come back next week. We're going to talk about some more stuff. It'll be awesome. Heavy on the synthesizer. Let's go. Okay.
Bye.
Love you. See ya. Want your questions answered on the podcast? Are you newly married or engaged, or are you a wedding vendor wanting to be a guest on the show? Want weekly tips and insights sent right to your inbox? Send us a message at www.floatingleafstudios.com/2togspodcast.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.